All right, welcome back to Keepin the Comic, and today we're diving into some more Venom War with another tie-in with Carnage's issue number 2. Now, this one brings us through Carnage finally seeing what Meridius was cooking up this entire time for the Venom War, and it also shows the missing piece to the investigation that he was leading to try and find out more about the K chemicals at Alchemax and how they were trying to control symbiotes. So let's dive into it here, right? So after Carnage had taken over Finn Taylor's body in the last issue, Finn Taylor was this guy that had supported Alchemax in their studies to fight against the symbiotes. So we see him here speeding in one of his cars because he was late for an important presentation that Finn was supposed to give. And just as a reminder here, what Carnage is trying to find out is who is at the heart of the K project that has been targeting symbiotes, and what he finds out in this upcoming meeting is incredibly interesting. Now, Carnage is kind of all over the place right now because he's in Finn Taylor's body and he looks kind of awkward. He parks in 2 spots at the same time. His face is all scrunched up, and then he even told Brenda, the receptionist, that he can smell her Botox from here. And based on what we know about Finn is kind of an asshole. I'm not sure if these were like his thoughts or if these are the thoughts coming from Carnage, but based on what was stated here, that Carnage is keeping his body alive, it's probably really the symbiote's intrusive thoughts that are with him. So after he takes the elevator down, he's greeted by someone that we have seen before. So his name is Dr. Freck. So we saw Dr. Freck back in another tie-in to Venom War called Venomous. Now this is where he was trying to auction off his new drug called the K42T. Now this drug, as he stated it, was supposed to be used to control and neutralize symbiotes. Listen, this was a failed display at this auction because he injected a person with a symbiote tissue sample, which then created a mindless symbiote that tried to attack everyone, whom he then had to put down using that new drug that he had, like the only one of that kind that he had, which basically evaporated the symbiote, but still kept the patient alive, barely. So Black Widow's symbiote, Sliver, left Dr. Freck in a vegetated state after probing his mind. And then later on in that issue, that was the first time that we saw the zombiotes when Black Widow and then Anti-Venom met up in this Venom War series. So this is just kind of to let you know here, like where this story places in the time of like the Venom War series so far, because this does happen before those events. So in this story, Finn is supposed to present Dr. Freck with his findings that would aid him in the upcoming auction. Now, the first thing that we see here is a female subject who is being injected with a manufactured symbiote strain, which cannot end well, right? Which then turns her into what looks like a zombiote. So Cletus starts talking to Carnage, who are both on the inside of Finn Taylor, like, hey bro, like, is it trying to speak? But Carnage frantically answers, man, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, as the zombiote stares directly at them. So Finn continues to explain to Freck how at this stage right now that they have some control over the zombiote's movement, but once it's connected to a hive, they can assign more complicated tasks, which I'm like, hive? Like, how can they be connected to a hive if this is like a manufactured symbiote? So before we find that out, right, Finn pulls out a bullet that he calls the K ammunition, which he says can be shot from any ordinary high caliber weapon. So inside where the zombiote is, he fires the bullet and it immediately kills the zombiote. The symbiote starts evaporating immediately. So now this like really pisses off Cletus, who wants to immediately kill everybody that is there. But Carnage stops him. The symbiote's like, listen, I want to see more. So then Finn brings in another subject. Now this person is from a local prison. This time the symbiote strain does not attach itself to the human for whatever reason. So this time Finn uses another vaccine, as he calls it, which is an aerosol version that he releases into the room through the sprinkler system, which then evaporates them on touch. And this is where it gets really interesting, because next we hear Finn talk about the K personnel, who are a group of employees that Finn is testing these strains on. They mention how they have created a symbiote hive, right? So this is where it's really gonna get cooking now. So here we see 3 employee zombiotes in front of a table with 3 guns, and then another employee, a woman with a helmet on. Now this woman is supposed to be controlling these 3 zombiotes. You can see the zombiotes mirroring her movement. Finn mentions how they are not just following her movement, but that they're also understanding the intention behind it as well. So Carnage is confused by this because he feels that there is something missing and wonders how humans could have done this without anyone else's assistance. But then Cletus stops and says, perhaps you're right, but look at the zombiotes right now, because Cletus realizes that the woman wearing the helmet is not actually in control, that in fact it is actually the zombiotes that are. And then right there, the woman with the helmet on starts to vomit. But Dr. Freck, he thinks this is just like a side effect of wearing the helmet, until the same woman turns around to another woman that was there in a room with them, and then she shoots her and takes her head clean off, because as Cletus mentions, the hive has taken over. And then the woman with the helmet on, she uses the severed head for her retina scan to free them out of the tested room. Then they immediately target and shoot Finn Taylor. But after she shoots once, she stops because they recognize that Finn is not actually Finn, but the Carnage symbiote, or at least a symbiote in disguise. So because Dr. Freck had called a code red, there are a group of soldiers that come in with their K chemical guns. Now Cletus is telling Carnage, like, yo, we need to go Carnage now. But Carnage is still holding off again because Carnage is like, I want to see more. Like, I want to see what they'll do, referring to the zombiotes. So someone yells, activate the sprinklers, while we see one of the zombiotes chomping down on one of the soldiers' necks. But then we see the woman that had the hive helmet. She has a bullet go directly through her face, and Carnage can feel the zombiotes panic in this moment, their pain, and he's getting even more angry watching it. And then we see the other zombiotes start to melt from the K chemical that was released through the sprinkler system. But now that chemical was also starting to penetrate through Finn's skin, and it was starting to hit the Carnage symbiote that is on the inside. And all that does is increase the rage of the Carnage symbiote until he can no longer contain it anymore, until he finally says, let us show them the meaning of carnage. So he rips Finn off while one of the soldiers says, shoot to kill now. And Carnage starts to go off, but then this little message pops up for us to read that says, Meridius is so rarely surprised, which is a side effect of reliving history. And while Carnage kills like 4 guys at the same time, like, this was a really dope scene, something we've seen him do before, but it just looks really dope here. Another message pops up and says, yet he finds himself surprised, as we then see the sprinklers stop spraying. So after Carnage has slayed everybody, he says, was that all? Is that all you got? Well, apparently it wasn't, because we got this whole montage of Carnage slaughtering more soldiers in like the brutalest of ways, man. My goodness. Which, to be fair, we're used to seeing Carnage slaughtering people, so this is not new to us. So Carnage feels like this excitement. He feels like, man, I am doing good. I'm going to win. I'm going to get away again. And then right when he feels that way, we see a long, sharp, black symbiote tentacle go right through his chest. And then we get this moment where this person pins him down and says his name, Carnage. And then Carnage finally realizes who has been behind this thing the entire time. The zombiotes, these experiments, the other person that has been helping these humans to come up with this chemical and the way that it is. We see the face of Meridius telling Carnage, welcome home. So this next issue here after this one for Carnage's tie-in is supposed to show us what happened in this showdown between them that was briefly mentioned in the main issue of Venom War 2. Now, what did you guys think about this one here? Hopefully you did like this video. If you do, don't forget to tap that like button here, subscribe for more, and hit that notification bell to receive all notifications. Check out our Venom War playlist here with all the main stories and the tie-ins that we've covered on this channel. Join our Discord for more updates. And as always, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.